welcome to Portage County Matters. I'm Patty Dreier, Portage County Executive. It's great to have you with us. Today my guest is Todd Neuenfeldt. He's our Facilities Director in Portage County Government, and I think you're going to find what he shares with us really interesting, sort of the inside look at government facilities here in Portage County. Before we do that, there's just a couple of fast things that I wanted to offer you at the top of the show in the way of news. First of all, the budget season is upon us here in Portage County. Later today, we'll have our first budget briefing with the departments of county government, and it is a great opportunity for us to start doing that work about how we will continue to focus on the priorities of Portage County and do our best from the operating levy standpoint. Before this, though, we had already begun the capital improvement process in county government, and I remember I explained this in past shows, but it's part of an annual cycle, and I like to use an opportunity like this for a little more education, if you would, just to keep everybody understanding how things work in the county government. So in February, we basically opened the window of opportunity for departments to submit capital projects. These are projects $25,000 or more in size, in dollar size. And they're more infrastructure related projects pretty typically. And then what happens after about a month is we close the window, then we start sifting through those projects, asking questions, clarifying things, and so on, until the county executive puts a proposal together about those projects that will be proposed for the next year, that is the 2016 year in this case, and beyond that then forecasting out a projection for 4 years or so past that next budget year. And it gives us a plan to look at for borrowing purposes, for our debt levy management kinds of purposes. The finance director, Jennifer Josie, is a great help in the process. She helps to create some sort of sequencing and the arrangements related to these projects that allow us to make the best most affordable kinds of steps going forward in kind of like a bigger picture of financial planning sort of sense. Anyway, I presented the capital improvement plan proposal about a little more than a week ago before the taping of the show to the Capital Improvement Committee. And this committee then takes on these projects after they have received my proposal. They'll sift through further and they'll refine that plan and then send it to the county board for adoption. And it basically gets fixed as a wedge. I like to think of it as a wedge in the whole budget picture, the budget pie, so that then we can do the rest of our budget planning around that. And so that's the process that's upon us right now. I recommended $4.2 million worth of projects for 2016 with forecasts beyond that for the possibility of borrowing projects that relate to government facilities such as a jail in our future. We don't know if those things will happen yet and when they'll happen, how they'll happen, but we have to plan ahead. And plans are just that. They give us a direction and then we can fine-tune as we go. There's no borrowing associated with this plan at this particular time. Not until we get through the budget process would there be any funds appropriated for capital projects. But again, we get the bigger projects basically set in a sequence early on in the budget process. Then we carry on with the operating budgets that guide us on a day-to-day basis to provide the services that county citizens such as yourself come to expect related to health and human services, sheriff's office, highway, and so on it goes. So anyway, that's where we are. That's the news note I wanted to offer you. And now I think it's time to turn to my guest today, Todd Neuenfeldt. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Facilities Director in Portage County. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll talk about the staff that you have, very qualified staff to do this good work in the county for us.
I started with the county in 1998 as a maintenance technician. I worked in pretty much all the buildings and all the different aspects of the maintenance field for the county. In 2008, I became Facilities Director after a vacancy. And just kind of been going along since then.
Yeah. Now talk about the staff. We have, and we have various specialties of the staff, and I think that's what would be a great thing for everybody to understand about us.
Currently, we have 23 employees in the facilities department. There's pretty wide range of different skill sets. We have landscapers, custodians, maintenance workers, maintenance technicians. We have a full-time electrician.
Yeah. And when we think about government facilities, I mean, we're talking about everything from the law enforcement center to the courthouse. Let's run through all the facilities that you care for as far as your daily support services go to the county.
We take care of all the maintenance, all aspects of maintenance, everything from landscaping to the roofs. If it's a window that needs replacing or carpeting, painting, heating, air conditioning, we take care of the courthouse, the law enforcement center, the annex building, the Lincoln Center, 1039 Ellis Street, Ruth Gilfer, the county home. We do some limited work out at the highway department and some limited work with Parks Department as well.
And then also down at the MRF, at the Material
Yes.
Recovery Facility, our solid waste department. Yeah, we know that you're a busy unit, and especially as facilities age over time, you know, it takes a different, just kind of like our homes, right? You know, we're always fixing something. I know it's going to be an edge of the front porch for Tom and I at home this time. But let's talk about some of the projects that we're working on right now here in county government. I think last night the water was shut off at the courthouse. We all got a notice. Let's start talking about that one first.
Last night we worked on replacing some piping in between flooring, in between the floors. So some drain lines and some water lines between the floors that were starting to fail. Recently we did some work in the basement of the PD, in the basement of the courthouse in the PD, in the police department section. We had to dig up part of the floor because of a failed pipe underneath the floor. So when we do that, we need to shut the entire building down, cut the floor open, replace the pipe, and then put it all back together.
And I don't know how you end up managing all of that, but I give you a lot of credit.
It's not alone. There's a lot of people that help it and make it come possible.
So when we're looking at other projects right now, why don't you highlight a few of them that you're able to mention besides that project?
Right now we're working on some inter-office moves for the Corporation Council. They're moving into a new space. Veterans Services is moving into a new space. The Family Court Commissioner is moving into a new, more, about the same amount of square footage, but it's a little closer to his courtroom. We are working on some new space, and all these projects are all part of one project. They all kind of go in a domino effect.
Yes.
But we're working on finance and human resources, and facilities is expanding, and I think that's pretty much all of them.
So those first moves, the Corporation Council, the Veterans Office, and the Family Court Commissioner are moves within the courthouse, and they're all on the first floor of the courthouse. And so we're using some space that became available when we merged child support with Health and Human Services.
Yes.
We're kind of reconfiguring. And the other thing about that citizens may not be aware of, just to kind of complement what you're saying, is that the Veterans Service Office was very, very cramped, and we have now in Portage County well over 6,000 veterans that we serve with their families, and there are opportunities for us to have the job search ops with the help of the Veterans Administration and job center types of folks. Anyway, we will have finally a place for veterans to have peer support in finding jobs at that particular new location. I know you know that already, but some of the citizens may not. So you're creating a computer station place as well for them, which is great.
I believe there'll be a kiosk in the office itself that veterans can go in and do job search and housing search.
Yeah, and a little more privacy. We know that veterans working through their particular issues need to make sure that they're, the appropriate kinds of privacy in their lives as well. So, okay, and then the other moves that the basically reconfigurations, that's more or less what we're talking about, are within the county annex building, where we're going to use some space better and improve some building security, and make some more functional spaces for the kinds of work that we continue to evolve to do. Right now, facilities department, let's see, you're on the first floor of the county annex. I'm not sure how many people have ever stopped in to see you there, but you're going to continue with your office there. And purchasing is almost on top of you as a department, so we'll be able to provide a little bit more space and some file space for HR and stuff that right now is just exceptionally cramped.
Currently, facilities is sharing a space with purchasing that at one time was entirely purchasing, and we kind of moved in, and we've slowly been consuming more and more of the purchasing space, and moving HR up to the second floor is going to allow for purchasing to have the space that they need and allow us to expand our footprint, if you will.
Yeah. With the changes in the facilities department, I mean, I think about automated work order systems and things, and you know, when you were spreading out in the facilities department, it was because your staff needed to have access to computers. Many people don't think about, say, maintenance staff needing to have access to computers, but indeed we depend on these kinds of information technology systems in the county to be able to track work orders and production and what's dangling out there that hasn't been addressed yet, how long did X, Y, or Z project take, and so on. So it's continuing to get more and more sophisticated. Yeah.
Just a few years ago, we used to do timesheets on a piece of paper and then turn that piece of paper in. So, like you said, there was no need for the facilities personnel to have access to a computer. And between the work order system, which is much more automated than the paper copy, it's a web-based work order system where any employee can go on the web-based or on the website and enter a work order. Between that and the timesheets, it's created a need for everybody to have access for a computer. And you're right. To have 23 people working on one computer in one location makes a very tight bottleneck. Exactly.
Yeah. And makes it chaotic for people trying to do different kind of quiet work in that same workspace.
True.
So those are some of the space issues that I know that we have been dealing with, and citizens here in the county have heard me talk from pretty much day one about the fact that we wanted more functional, flexible kinds of facility spaces to do our work.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what's on deck when you think about other projects that are pretty near in your future, things that you're thinking about as facilities director right now. What would that look like for us to share that window with others?
In terms of capital projects?
It could be.
Okay. Well, right now we're focusing a lot of our time on a new building. You know, Space and Properties has the start of a new building out there, and the concept that we're working through with Venture Architects. In terms of the other projects, we have a number of capital projects waiting that are kind of in a holding pattern for the courthouse as well as the annex and the law enforcement center, and all those projects hinge on what happens with a new building. So they're kind of in a holding pattern right now, and that includes windows at the courthouse, elevator cabin controls update at the courthouse, a new heating system at the courthouse, a law enforcement generator, and there's quite a few other ones as well that are all kind of waiting for a decision to be made with a building.
Garage, sally port kinds of things, storage issues related around these buildings. What happens when we start? We've heard some people talk about, well, why don't we just renovate the jail, or why don't we just renovate the courthouse? And I know that we have done a whole bunch of improvements to these kinds of facilities. Talk about the rules and the regulations. It's a much more complicated world when it comes to the regulations for these facilities than I think the general public may understand.
Anytime a renovation is done in a courtroom, the senior judge has to sign off on it and approve that renovation. If it's a major renovation, that would most likely have to go to the next level of the judge, which would be the district judge.
Okay.
If you were to do a major renovation inside of the courthouse, you would have to abide by, if you think of it's anything over 49% of the building gets renovated, you'd have to upgrade to the current fire code, which would involve fire sprinklers. It could change the exit patterns. Depending on the occupancy and what you're using the building for, it could change the number of exits required, restrooms required.
ADA, Americans with Disability Act,
yes.
Access points.
Right.
And what about the jail?
The jail is governed by the state, and anytime you renovate the jail, you'd have to get the approval for the current Department of Corrections code over there in the jail. And any major renovations over in the jail would require to be brought up to standard as well. And depending on the square footages of the cell, you may actually lose occupancy in the jail by remodeling.
What are some of the structural challenges of the jail that you encounter in your facilities role? Heard about those drains in the floors, for example.
Not so much a structural type thing, but one of the biggest hindrances we have is getting into the cell block to work on something. We actually have to enter into a cell. The typical jails today are built with pipe chases behind the cell blocks where the facilities or maintenance people do not have to enter into the cell. If we have to enter into the cell, we have to ask the jailer to remove the inmate that's in there. Then we have to get in, bring the inmate back. That creates a lot of extra work for both facilities as well as the jail staff.
And then making sure that you've cleared, you know, appropriately in between and kept distances. And we don't have other kind of gathering places at the existing jail right now. You know, like where does the person go if you're already using your jail close to?
Typically, they'll move the inmate into a holding cell or into the library, but oftentimes the library is used for programming. It could be used for holding. It's used for video court. The library is a very, very busy place inside the jail, so it's oftentimes very difficult to find a place to put an inmate when you're in to do a repair.
How about the courthouse? What are some of the challenges in doing your work there?
It's an older building, which is fine. And structurally, it's in good shape. The HVAC system in there was limited. It was built with 1956 codes. It did not originally have air conditioning. Trying to keep people comfortable is sometimes a very difficult task.
Same scenario over at the healthcare center right now.
Correct.
And that is our oldest building for parts of it.
Parts of the healthcare center date back, I believe, into the 20s. The majority of it was built. The north and south wings were built in '64, and there were some additions, a number of additions done in the '90s.
All right. So, Todd, one of the things that you're responsible for is being the face of energy conservation in the county, and folks have heard me talk about our strategic energy management plans in the county. Discuss a little bit about some of the energy initiatives that are behind us and then what we're looking ahead to right now. Costs what? I believe it's, what, $750,000 to $800,000 or more for our annual energy consumption for natural gas and electricity for our county facilities at this time, I think.
It's a big number. In the past, we've done a number of energy, in conjunction with Focus on Energy, we've done a number of different energy projects. We've installed frequency drives on pumps and fans.
So why don't you explain what that is as we go through it, because people like me didn't know until you taught me.
Frequency drive varies the speed of the motor based upon what's needed. If you as you're blowing air through the ducts at the courthouse or in the annex building, let's say, the warmer your office is, the more air we're going to have to dump in your office. So we're going to have to speed that fan up because there's more and more people putting a load on that fan. And rather than running that fan at 100%, there's times that fans maybe only need to run 30, 40%. Well, that's a huge energy saver.
So a variable
frequency drive.
Frequency drive. All right. So what are some of the other initiatives? These are things that a lot of citizens will never know that we've done behind the scenes, that you've done with your leadership behind the scenes.
One of the simplest ones was just replacing the T12 fluorescent light bulbs with T8s. Then, like I said, we've done the frequency drives on fans and motors.
Where'd you do those light changes?
Throughout all the county buildings.
Okay.
We've replaced some condenser units on the courthouse to go to higher rating, higher energy efficiency rating.
Great. We were always looking at solar hot water. I know that out at the parks they've been trying to work on various kinds of projects in our our wood heat is out there as another initiative, but
we've done some LED lighting, especially on the outdoor lighting. The annex and the law enforcement center both had their lighting upgraded within the last few years. A number of the fixtures were broken or damaged, so we replaced them with LED lights. There's a significant energy savings there.
what would it mean? What's the difference between retrofitting existing buildings and then looking at new construction? I mean, when it comes to an energy footprint.
Any new building's going to be built to today's code. The courthouse necessarily would be could be very difficult to bring it up to the energy standards for today.
I'm just curious more than anything. And right now there's the capital project that was in since last year related to a renewable energy analysis.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that one, if you don't mind.
We're going to be exploring some different options in terms of renewable energy sources, and hoping to work with Midwest Renewable Energy.
Yep.
And
Nice.
hopefully we can, and in particular involving a new building, but possibly if we were to build a new building, that would definitely be the time to look at something like that. If you were to do a long-term solar type project, either for hot water or even doing a solar farm out at the landfill, something like that. Mm-hmm. So you've set some money aside for some exploration and some engineering to see if it would be cost effective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when we think about the facilities department, some of the things that folks don't think about are, you know, because we're going to get beyond custodial, beyond regular preventive maintenance, and beyond crisis maintenance, right? Getting the roof on and planning ahead on those things, making sure that the restrooms are functioning properly and so on. Besides all of that, and besides the energy piece, you're still delivering mail between buildings. You're still working on security, building security, our key fobs, and all of the computer relationships in that, and supporting IT and service space and fiber and all of those things that take us to this next level of today's security and government, right? Cameras. What else? What am I forgetting? There's a lot of odd things out there that are really part of staying ahead of this.
The easiest way I can say it is that anything that falls between cutting the grass and replacing the roof is really falls onto us.
There you go.
If nobody else picks it up, we're there to catch it, I guess.
Yeah.
We do the mail, like you said. We take care of the snow removal. We're responsible for lawn care and the landscaping. We put the roofs on, and we make sure that the building's at the temperature you want.
Yeah, and I have to say again, with master gardeners and others helping, that's terrific for us, because we can have the extra beauty of perennials, for example, by the courthouse, thanks to
Master gardeners do a terrific job every year.
Yeah. All right, library. We know that there are a number of projects in the capital plan that are related to the new lease we have for Portage County Public Library downtown. Talk about those projects, if you don't mind, and how we plan to get those taken care of.
One of the projects is a new control system. The control system that's in the library is a very, it's an older pneumatic control system that has been giving us a number of issues.
Yes.
There's some buried poly lines behind walls that have failed and have made it very difficult to maintain a comfortable temperature over there. We're looking at a new chiller over at the library, as well as a new boiler. There's some new windows that are going in there, and right now they're all in that capital project list, and as they get funded, we'll get on those.
And the first priorities, you helped rank them so that I could put those in the proposal for capital improvements. But let's see, the first one was temperature control.
That was number one.
Yeah, and the reason is especially because we're talking about the fact that not only does it make it more comfortable for patrons on a daily basis, but we can't forget that our library is one of our warming or cooling shelters when it comes to emergency management in Portage County. And that's really, really important. Mm-hmm. So, all right, how many, okay, so you go down to Gilfer. Oh, let's just talk about the Ruth Gilfer building. You've been doing some projects there. You had there's a tunnel and stairwell and a remodel for the public health clinic. These are all projects that you have taken the lead on. Talk about the status of these kinds of projects.
We had a Gilfer stairs and railing, and that included a new roof for the tunnel replacement. On the back side of the Gilfer building, there's an entranceway which we call a tunnel. We're working on putting a roof over that over time. Stuff is, the building has shifted a little bit, or the tunnel, I should say, has shifted a little bit, and there's been some cracks in the roofing, and it's allowing water to get in. We're looking at putting a new rubber roof over that. We replaced the stairs and railing off of the back of Gilfer and a new railing out front. The clinic health remodel, like you said, was a huge project. Not a huge project in terms of, it's a big project for us. Yep. It's something that we have kind of been branching into, is doing a little bit more and more in the facilities department. That turned out really nice.
It really did. Some folks don't maybe know that the public health clinic not only works with families and immunizations and so on and so forth, but also for people who may have mental illness who come on a weekly basis or daily basis to receive their medicines there. And so it's really like a little bit of truly like a doctor's office to be able to get in and make sure that we have cared for the security of the meds and everything else that you've got to do in this kind of regulatory world.
And speaking from my own experience, I guess, and not from the health department experience, but I think one of the biggest advantages of the remodel was it really increased the flow of traffic for the immunization clinics.
Interesting. So, Todd, we have a couple minutes left. I know that as we had started just briefly, we talked about the larger government facility planning effort that's underway with the Space and Properties Committee, which is the committee you report to as your oversight committee, taking the lead on that. It's all in accordance with our strategic plan, goal number 2. Many folks have seen me or had me talk with them about our master strategic plan, but it talks about specifically providing more functional, flexible county facilities and developing a comprehensive 10 to 20 year county physical space plan. Wow, so the downtown decision was made recently at the county board, as I mentioned at the last show. 1039 Ellis has been in the conversation. Talk about that building a little bit. We're working in partnership with Berkshire Hathaway right now. You've done a lot of work on that. There was a lot to take it out of mothballs and pull it up into the new day, if you would. Well,
1039 Ellis is probably known by most people as either the old Associated Bank building or the Weber Tackle building. The county acquired that a little over a year ago. Associated was using it as essentially storage unit, so they had done minimal maintenance work, and it wasn't staffed very heavily in there. They had very few number of people in there, so a lot of things as they would fail just didn't get the attention that they needed, and rightfully so. It was an empty building. We brought that building back up to speed. Berkshire Hathaway is renting it from the county, as I think you mentioned. They have a number of people in there. The building itself is structurally very, very solid, and right now Venture Architects is working with the county in different options as to what we could use it for in the future.
Wonderful, and I know that that's one of the subjects that'll be taken up at the Space and Properties meeting later today.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, and hopefully that this show has given folks a greater appreciation for the depth of the work that we do behind the scenes in making sure that the mission on the forefront keeps going forward. So thank you for that, and thanks to your staff for making it. We really have wonderful facilities as far as how clean they are, how well cared for. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll move forward with a larger physical space plan that'll give us that broad direction we need.
Thank you.
Next month, Judge John Finn is going to be my guest. By that time, he'll have retired, and he'll be able to sit with us and talk a little bit about how the community has changed over his almost 28 years from the bench. I'll see you then, everybody. Thanks for joining us.